I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Jennifer Mills on the line, and she's president over at MedX and also host of the Mills on the Mic podcast. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. So happy to be here.
All right, Jen. So I'm so excited to have you on the show today. I've been waiting to announce the launch of this podcast. So Mills on the Mic, a whole lot going there. I also want to bring to my audience this amazing story and your involvement with the Chargers and how all this took place. It's really an unbelievable story. And then, of course, cannot forget MedX. So as a business and a business success, a lot going on there. So we'll talk about that as well. But to get us started, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with our Mission Matters Minute. So Jen, we at Mission Matters amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Jen, what mission matters to you?
Well, when it comes to our business, one of the main focus is our consumers. So making sure that we bring eco-friendly, the green scene type of products obviously will benefit our consumers. That is one of our major goals. And then on the other side, being able to expand on our philanthropic side of the business and giving back to our community. That's what really does matter to us.
That's awesome. I love bringing mission-based entrepreneurs and executives on the line to share why they do what they do, how they're doing it, and what we can all learn from and grow from together as a community. So awesome having you on. And I guess just to get us kicked off, let's go further into MedX, especially maybe there's some audience that is listening to this, our newer listeners and viewers who maybe didn't catch the first episode we did where we went into MedX. We'll put the link in the show notes for those that didn't catch that one, where we had Matthew on the line as well from MedX. But from your end, tell us a little bit more about the story and how you got started.
Wow. So it started probably going on 20 plus years now, when Matt, he worked for other businesses, and then he was given the opportunity by private investors to do something on his own. And we came across this natural heating cooling product that our doctors were quite impressed with. And then putting those two things together at the same time just gave us, a business plan of, okay, well, maybe we can actually do this. So that's actually how it actually all, started. It was with Matt having his connections, a family friend giving us a product that we kind of was able to manipulate and make it better for the consumer, and putting two together, and it just launched from that point on.
Yeah. And it's an amazing story. And I asked this question because we all learn from the ups, the downs, the sideways, everything in between, right? As entrepreneurs, as business owners. If you could go back to that, let's just say that Jen and Matt that were just kind of getting started, whether it's launching MedX or just as entrepreneurs in general, and you could, give a couple words of advice, what kind of things would you say? I know that's a hard one, because it's to go back 20 years, and put it all in one episode. I know we could write books on this, but what comes to mind?
Yeah. So I've been asked that similar question before. And when I think back, as scary as it was with having a 2-year-old and a newborn and having to go on our own, not knowing what to expect, just making that leap of faith. You hear it all the time. And just believing in yourself and going for your dream and just, giving it 1,000%. That is pretty much how we took our moment of, should we do this? And, 20 plus years later, we are still here. Does not mean we have not had our trials and tribulations. Believe me, we have gone up, down, having a roller coaster ride to be where we are today. But it didn't happen if we didn't take that leap.
Yeah, it's a great story. Yeah, I tell people all the time, you said take that leap. I'm like, jump off the ledge. Entrepreneurship's hard. It's painful. There's not that much sleep in the business, I found. So that may be just my perspective. Maybe some of the other entrepreneurs out there can relate, right?
I don't know. I mean, I think the struggle, you need to have that struggle
Mhm. Yeah.
to drive and push you. And, once you reach one level of success, you're not done. You want to keep pushing and pushing because there's more to do.
Mhm. And so I completely agree. And for some of those, now that's many years later, obviously it's a different type of business. So for some of those entrepreneurs, and I know many products that you're launching. So for those that are out there that are maybe, let's just say more at the senior or executive level, and as they scale their business, like there's different challenges, right? There's different things that happen. Like, so on our end, I mean, I can just tell you from me, I mean, I was probably 20 businesses in, if I count the childhood ones, before I really found my calling and mission matters, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense for me. So I know personally, as a business owner, as I've scaled, there's been different things and skills and that I've had to learn along the way, to make me better for my team and otherwise. When it comes to yourself, like when you're thinking about like either tooling up in skills, or like just as you've grown the business through different channels, like what has been useful to you, whether it's resources, mentors, like what's played a difference in your story?
For me, it was easier for me than Matt. It took Matt a little longer. But for me, I think one of the most important things that I did was I was able to reach out to not mentors in general, like
Yeah.
to them personally, obviously, but grabbing a book, listening to, what they had to say when they had a show on. So there isn't a specific
Yeah.
mentor, there isn't a specific person, but I do really focus on a couple books that I have read, and I go back to them all the time. Every year I read them over and over and remind myself that, like, despite all of our failures, because in order to know success, you do have to fail. And every success story out there has that. And if I didn't have these books to fall back to and keep me grounded and focused and driven, then I probably would have gotten lost in the journey. So there are a ton of books out there. I have a couple for myself, but I do recommend, if anybody's on a journey, with entrepreneurship, definitely grab something that can keep you focused, like I have. I was lucky enough to find some
Got to
that.
give us at least one of those books,
Oh,
Jennifer. Come
well,
on, at least
okay. So,
one. I mean,
okay,
don't keep
well,
us
you know,
cliffhanger over here.
so one of the books I read is actually The Secret,
Oh,
and
love it.
that is very well known.
Yeah.
I try to put that into my daily practice.
Mhm.
And the other one that I actually read and recommend all the time is The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
Uh,
That is amazing because when I first grabbed it and I started reading, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it just hit home.
yeah.
The way it was put so simply that anyone can relate, I was like, okay, this is kind of my Bible in the workforce.
Amazing. It's great. So switching focus here slightly. So Mills on the Mic, the podcast. First off, I need to know, like, and for I've heard part of the story, but I know there's more. Like, how did this begin? How did this whole Chargers movement with you, the Chargers, and this brand, like, how did it all begin?
Oh my goodness. So it started like 3 years ago, and I cannot give anyone credit except for people, the fans on Twitter. Like, I was on Twitter, obviously, just, as a parent, making sure my kids were, doing the right thing on social media.
Mhm.
But then I decided to start, interacting. But that interaction really didn't take off until about 3 seasons ago when I did my very first giveaway, which was for just, some free stickers that I happened to get from a Chargers game.
Mhm.
And from then on, it just really started to slowly grow. But last year, it's been about a year now, when I put together a GoFund for a fan who lost his home
Mm.
in a fire in Tucson, Arizona.
Ah,
So Taylor and his family, he has a daughter that has some medical conditions, and being right smack in the middle of COVID time, it was just really difficult for them to work because this happened and they have to be home to take care of their daughter. So hearing his story and talking with him, I decided to put the GoFund together. We were able to raise over $12,000 for him.
wow.
The Chargers got involved, some players got involved,
Mhm.
and that is where it just kind of grew. And people on Twitter knew of me more. And then they actually nominated me for the Chargers Fan of the Year, which I didn't even know existed until someone mentioned it. And then that happened. And then it just kind of, kept going from that point on. So that's pretty much how it started with the Chargers and the fan base and interacting even with players.
So before we go any further, Twitter handle. I know I follow you, but I don't remember the handle.
Twitter handle, you can find me as Jen Mills, or I believe it's at Jennifer Mills 21.
Fantastic. And we'll put all that in the show notes, of course, but I know I follow you, and it's a great active page. But I want to stick on that beginning a little bit longer here, because I think what you've managed to do, like a lot of people use social media for different things, obviously, branding, get their message out, Twitter, maybe just to voice an opinion, whatever their opinion is, right?
Right.
But what you've managed to do is really like take a passion for sports, which I believe many, many people have, whatever their teams are or otherwise. And you've managed to take that authentic passion and translate that into helping other people. Like at what point, and I love the start, by the way, because I'm a big fan of, hey, just start. Like you gave away some stickers, like period. Like that wasn't like, you didn't have this big business plan, even though you could have done it. I mean, you have the skills to do it as a business person, but you didn't sit back. I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't sit back, do this huge business plan, say, I'm going to win Chargers Fan of the Year, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Like you didn't do that. All you did was you just started by adding a little bit of value, gave away some stickers, right? And then at some point you had, well, first off, let me clarify, am I accurate on that? Like you didn't have a big business plan, anything like that?
No, there was no plan. It was just very random. And I'm like, I've got a handful of extra stickers. Let's see who wants them. Like, I'm not going to use them, or, what could I do with extra stickers? So of course, nothing was planned.
And I asked that only because there's people out here that are out there that'll watch this and have an idea. And it's like, I like to just bring that out. Like, just start. We add some stickers. Like, I'm like, man, why am I not doing that? Like, like that's amazing. It's a great idea, number one, but you just did it. That's the difference. So somewhere along the line, like you had you translated this into giving back. Was it with that first individual that you mentioned? Is that when your kind of vision or heart for this changed on like what was possible? Like when did that happen?
That happened a couple years after I actually got started. So after I did the initial stickers, it gave me so much joy that I was able to make a handful of people happy with something as simple as a sticker, that I was like, okay, like this could be something. So I just decided, very randomly one day, I'm like, I had like an extra Charger shirt that I'm like, I'm not going to wear this. So let's see if somebody wants this now. So it like gradually moved, from stickers to other merchandise that I was able to start giving back to other fans. And I was so surprised by how many fans out there that actually don't have merchandise. That was a shocker to me. Of course, every fan, loves their team, whatnot. But to know that fans don't have merchandise because they can't afford it, or they don't have resources to be able to get to a store, get to a game, or, because merchandise can be so expensive,
of course,
that I was like, okay, like, let's see if I can help somebody out. And I just remember we had like a really great game, and I said, okay, I'm taking this opportunity, and I decided to give away a jersey.
Wow.
That was probably one of the best ideas that came into, my mind, was like to give out a jersey, because I couldn't believe how many people would want a jersey, that I assumed they would already have a jersey if they're a fan. And like I said, not too many people can afford merchandise. So it like really clicked with me. So I love the idea of being able to make someone's day. So it could be a sticker, it could be a jersey, it could be $50 so they can get some, gas nowadays, right? Gas prices are ridiculous. So just recently I did a giveaway for $100 for $100 cash, just so I could help fill someone's tank.
How did I miss that one?
I mean,
I do follow you. I missed that one. Go ahead. Sorry. I did miss that.
And in the past, I've, I made a post and I said, hey, whoever responds to this first, I'll buy your breakfast or coffee for the week.
Yeah.
So I like to do that. When I'm getting coffee for myself, I'll just randomly buy somebody behind me their coffee.
Yeah.
The last time I actually did that in a drive-through, it was for somebody obviously in the police force. It was a car, So I'm like, okay, I want to buy them their coffee today. So I like to do random things in person. I like to do them on Twitter. So that's how it all started, because I just figured, I'm already doing all this, so might as well bring it to my Twitter platform, because the interaction I got there was so big. And that's just how it all just escalated.
Yeah. And there's so many business lessons to unpack there. I just want to pull one or two out. So we're all of us as business owners at one point or another, depends on where we're at in our career. We've had this obsession with scaling or growing the business at some point. But what Jen did, and what I think is so genius is, and she said, she just tried to make a couple of people happy. So I think a lot of times business owners, like we maybe are so busy thinking about scaling or everything else that we have to do in our day to day that we kind of forget the benefit of when we're small or just getting started and we just have those couple of clients. So maybe, for some of us watching, we refocus on like, how do we make our current clients happier? What do we do there? Like a huge business lesson. It's one that like, I feel like us as a company, we're constantly going back and rethinking that and asking for feedback. And as we get bigger and bigger, finding out better ways to do that. But then the other lesson I want to bring out that you mentioned was giving something away or being of benefit without necessarily expecting something back in return. So you up the ante just because you had something else. You didn't have this plan on jerseys or what was the budget going to be for our next giveaway or what do we do here or there. It's just you're that type of person, individual that will give without like, and that law of reciprocation or the secret or whatever we want to say. I mean, we can go biblical, we can go new age. I mean, there's a ton of different ways we can say like the benefit that you get back from doing that, not just in business, but like emotionally or just for mental health, like all those other things. There's just so much benefit in this giveaway model you've developed. I know that many out there that'll listen to this maybe haven't considered and maybe, I don't know how deep you went into this. I think you do it very intuitively, but this idea of giving something away as a model, tell me a little bit more just about how that has worked, because you've gone from like one thing, you keep on adding things up and I don't mean the business end, like, because this is different. You're not doing a giveaway for necessarily, maybe you are for MedX, but you're giving away and you're building chartered community because that's what you already liked doing anyway. Like, how does this whole model of giving things away on social media work, or how has it worked for you?
Well, it actually all started because I did try to implement it with our business. So with our products, we would do giveaways throughout the year and interact with our consumers. And for example, one of our biggest social platforms is Facebook with our product Thermalate. So I've come to realize that not all social platforms work for all of our products, but Facebook was huge. And the amount of interaction we got there was so great that if Easter came along, we'd put together a little Easter basket with a couple of our products as a giveaway. Mother's Day, Father's Day, any holiday that would come up, we would try to, incorporate a giveaway so we could give back to our consumers. So that's something that we decided to do. And then from there, I think it was just so just an automatic for me on a personal side. It was super easy for me to just go ahead and say, hey, why don't I try this, exactly with the stickers. I'm like, okay, well, it's worked for business. Why not do it for myself personally on Twitter? And Twitter for me is my biggest social media platform. That's where I get the most interaction. I have tried with Instagram. It's really hard. I don't know why.
Yeah.
The interaction, the engagement, the amount of fans that are actually on there to interact, it seems like Twitter is just more instantaneously like right there. Like people get a notification and will comment. So I've taken that knowledge and focused on my giveaways, my interactions, my mission to give back, and I've utilized Twitter for that.
You're dropping so many jewels today, Jen. And this is what I mean. Like a lot of times business owners, we think, you hear one thing, you see something in the news. Otherwise, you're like, oh, I have to be on this platform. Oh, I have to be on TikTok. I have to do this. I have to do that. Well, sometimes the platform will pick you. It sounds to me like in this case, Twitter picked you really. Like you that's where you got your involvement. That's where the people that you wanted to reach were at, and that's what worked for you. Will that work for another business owner? Maybe not. Maybe another business owner does better on Instagram, but you were willing to try and test and to kind of figure out what works for you and new ways to add value to your audience. And as you did that, you're not done testing. So meaning, I think this is actually a great transition,
Yeah.
meaning you continue to add value and create different types of content on different podcasts. I know you know where I'm going with this one. I've been so excited to have you on the show. So now the next platform that you're tackling and adding content to is the podcast platform, which I have a complete bias for everybody watching and listening to this because I love podcasting. Don't get me talking about podcasting. We'll be here all day. But back to you. So Mills on the Mic podcast, like tell me a little bit about the concept behind this.
Oh my goodness. It really is just like fan based. I had no desire to ever do a podcast whatsoever.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No.
I am like so nervous and so uncomfortable in front of the camera. I so prefer to be in the background, back scene, and like making sure everything works okay, not in front where I'm like, what do I do now? Kind of thing. So when I first was asked to be on a podcast, and that was a year ago, and then to now I've been on other podcasts, I've been interviewed, I've worked with the Chargers on a few things, and that's made me face my fear of being, in the forefront of things. And obviously I have to take that as a sign and go, okay, like there's a reason for it. And then Matt mentioned the podcast, other fans mentioned podcasts, and I'm like, okay, well, that word just is surrounding me right now. So I guess I'm supposed to do something with that. And then after talking to a few people, friends who are on Twitter that I've made over the past couple of years, they're like, yes, you should do one. You can bring so much. And I'm like, what can I bring? Like when I think of a podcast with Twitter, with Chargers, it's your typical sports podcast where they talk about stats and players in the season. I'm like, I can't do that. So I decided, okay, well, I'm just going to take what I do on Twitter, incorporate it into my podcast, and give it a little bit more of a personal touch. Yeah. So people can get to know me a little bit better. Or for those who don't know me, they can get to know me and see what I can do. And I want to be able to do what our mission is set for, our business and for myself personally, and actually bring it to life. Yeah. And I think like you can go and support so many organizations by donating money so they can go and make a difference. Well, this way, I can take funds that are raised and be able to make a difference in someone's life personally. It's kind of selfish, but I say it brings me so much joy that that's why I want to do it.
Yeah. We'd be so lucky if more people were selfish like that. So I'm in, and I'm in for the concept. And I also like that throughout your journey with the Chargers and business and otherwise, like you've been authentic to yourself, and you've created the type of content and relationships you want. And it comes out, by the way, in your interview. It's so obvious. So a lot of people watching this might say, well, I might want to do a podcast, or I might want to do this. But the first thing they do is they look at, let's just say, use your example. Well, if I'm going to do something where I'm talking about Chargers or sports or this or that, then I have to know all these stats. I have to do a certain type of production. I have to do all this other stuff. And you're like, no way. That's not what I do. Like that. I don't want to be the next stat person, which no offense to that person. I mean, that many people like those type of podcasts, but you want to tell the story behind the players. You want to tell other success stories and just other stories that surround the game as well. So that's what you authentically do anyway. So now what you're doing is leveraging what you do, bringing it to a new medium, and you're just going to find different ways to add value to your audience, because a lot of the audience that listens to or already follows you on Twitter, or many that didn't follow you on Twitter that maybe just discover you from the podcast platform will then go to your Twitter and be like, oh my gosh, Jen is the real deal. Like, this isn't just a show. This isn't just like, she lives this and it comes through. And I tell people all the time, like, you can't fake your presence on social media. You have to just, it's really the hardest thing in my opinion is just to be yourself on social media, because it's very revealing, right? As creators, to be yourself. But if you think about like other mediums, we'll say, or other artistic expressions, a singer, a songwriter, right? Something like that, like you'd expect a certain amount of themselves to come through in their music, or else it wouldn't connect with your audience. So same thing with podcasting. So you decided to make the show your own.
Yes, being able to be myself is the only thing I think about, because when, putting together a podcast, employee of ours, he's like, you need to be yourself, because if you're not, they'll see right through it.
Yeah.
And it is kind of hard on Twitter or other social platforms to actually get that across. Mm-hmm. But hopefully I'll be able to make that transition from Twitter to my podcast, which I think everybody will see that I am still the same Jen, whether you see me in person or if you see me on Twitter, and you can see who I am by how I post. So
and it's a craft. It'll evolve. I tell everybody that all the time. And like, your shows evolve, networks evolve, things evolve. So it's going to be, I'm excited to watch the journey. And so not holding you to this, because I know, first off, I don't want to spoil the show. I want everybody to go listen to it, subscribe, of course. But what are the types of stories and or episodes? You don't have to give a specific guest name or anything like that if you don't, but I just mean like, what type of stories to give a flavor of the content so people can know kind of what to expect or what you're thinking?
So I actually put a post out there on Twitter asking, what kind of things do you want me to talk about? Or, like, do you have any ideas for me? And it was really funny because a lot of the comments back to me were very similar to what I was already wanting to do.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, this is
proof of concept. You ask your customers, what do they want? And it's like, oh, we just, at MedX, we just happen to create that product. It's like, thank you to our current customer base. We'd be so lucky as business owners. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No worries. So it was really interesting to see their input. Mm-hmm. And so I planned out, all my ideas, and it's, like I said, basically what I do on Twitter. So if I'm lucky enough to be able to bring on a current or past Charters player, I'm hoping to do so. Yeah. I want to be able to take any individual. They don't have to be a Chargers fan. Any individual who has a foundation, their own organization, their own business, anything that they feel heartfelt involved in. I want to be able to showcase them. I want to share their stories, because everybody has a story. I have my story, you have yours. Everybody has a story and something that we can all learn from. And being able to give back to the community and helping make a change in individuals. That's what my whole goal is with my podcast.
It's great. It's a great story, and happy to bring that to our audience. Well, Jen, just have to say it has been great having you on the show to catch up. Finally, I got John here. I want to get your side of the MedX story, of course, and then to hear more about this Charger story, because it's just an amazing story. That being said, if somebody is watching this or listening to this and they want to follow up and they want to learn more, whether it's to follow you on Twitter, whether it's learn more about MedX or otherwise, I mean, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, the best way to learn about MedX is obviously to go to our, company's page, www.medxinc.com. Mm-hmm. And if you want any, more detailed information about the products, you can always just message me. You can definitely contact me through Twitter, because that is obviously where my go-to is. So my Twitter handle is @JenniferMills21. You can just type in my name, Jen Mills, and I should pop up.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And we'll put all that information in the show notes so that our audience can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time engaging with a Mission Matters episode or the platform in general, we're all about bringing on entrepreneurs, executives, and experts and having them share, what motivates them, what's their mission, how do they do what they do, and what can we all learn from that to grow and succeed together. If that's the type of content that you're into, or that sounds, fun or engaging or motivating, then I welcome you. Hit that subscribe button. We have many more mission-based individuals just like Jen coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. Jen, been a pleasure. I can't wait to listen to this new podcast and also introduce it to our audience. So thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.